Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 39 of the Stitching Between Pages podcast. I'm Robin. You can find me on Ravelry as halfpast92 and on Instagram and Twitter as medievalisting. We do have a Ravelry group for this podcast. I'm pretty sure it's Stitching Between Pages, possibly Stitching Between Pages podcast. So if you search groups on Ravelry, you will find us. Show notes for previous episodes are over at stitchingbetweenpages.blogspot.com. Haven't quite decided if I'm going to do full show notes for this episode. And here we are. Today is Friday, March 30th, 2018. So a very belated Happy New Year to all of you. I hope your 2018 is off to a good start. I feel like after a very long month of January that seemed to drag on for about 6 years, February blinked. I blinked and February was gone. And somehow it's almost April. So that's cool. It's also my birthday on Sunday, which is really exciting. It also happens to be Easter Sunday, that's kind of weird. So yes, I am an April Fool's baby. Anyways, I'm drinking some coffee I love my owl mug so much. This was a gift from a really good friend of mine who knows that I love owls. So I think every Christmas I get something owl themed from her. When I'm drinking coffee, it's actually not the morning anymore. It's a little bit afternoon, but I went this morning, got a fresh haircut. So I didn't finish all my coffee, my full pot of coffee before I left. So I'm finishing it up now while I chat with you all. So obviously it's been a while. The last episode that I filmed was on September 9th of 2017. So actually, let's see, it's about 6 months. So I think that's actually less time between episode 38 and episode 39 than there was between episode 37 and episode 38. So that's cool. Some of you have gotten in touch with me on Instagram in the past, I would say in the past 6 weeks or so. There have been a couple of you who've gotten in touch and said how much you missed the podcast, that you hoped I would come back to it someday. And that sort of planted the seed in my head. I thought, wouldn't it be nice to film an episode? I'm currently on spring break, which is super nice. So I've had a very relaxing week. And after several months of no knitting, I did knit over Christmas. And I will show you one of my finished objects from that Christmas break knitting. Holly is sitting on my lap. She apparently does not want to talk to her adoring fans. She just jumped down. So I'm sure in 5 minutes she'll be screaming at me, meowing to pick her up again. She wants you to know that if it had been up to her, I would have been filming regularly so that you all could see how she was doing, that she was still as beautiful as she always has been. But unfortunately it was not up to her. Not having opposable thumbs makes it really difficult to set up the video camera, etc. Anyways, I will show you some of the knitting that I did over Christmas. And between then and the knitting that I'm going to show you, I did pretty much no knitting for about 3 months. Things were just super, super busy, and I just didn't. It wasn't that I didn't want to knit or that I had no inspiration. It was just that I didn't have the time or the energy. It was a really busy few months with school. And I'm looking ahead to a couple of more busy months. I hope you can't hear that banging that is going on outside. They are scraping and repainting the fire escape or something. I have no idea. And of course, I saw no work happening this morning. I saw no work happening when I got home. I thought, perfect, I will sit down and film this episode with no, work noises. Hopefully you can't hear them. It's not terribly loud. If you can, I'm really sorry. I am sitting down to do this while I have the energy and the inspiration, and I have been thinking about filming this episode all week, and I thought Friday would be a perfect day because I got a fresh haircut, so my hair looks really good. And so here we are. Anyways, I think I should stop chattering. It's good to know that I have not lost the knack for that. It's funny, I was falling asleep last night and I was thinking to myself, okay, do I still remember my podcast intro, or am I going to have to watch it and practice it a couple times? I remember when I filmed the last episode, I had to film several attempts at my little introductory spiel before I liked how it sounded. And not this time. Apparently, podcasting is like riding a bicycle. That's great. Anyways, so let me show you the thing that I knit over Christmas. And if you follow me on Instagram, you will already have seen these. I knit and I'm really not sure how to pronounce this. I'm guessing that it's in a Scandinavian language. I'm tempted to say either millet or millet, which I guess I'm giving it a French accent, French pronunciation, and I suspect that neither of those are quite right. It's M-I-L-E-T, and both the I and the E have long marks, macrons over them. Anyways, mitten pattern by Isolde Teague in her latest Knitworthy collection, which is the annual Christmas collection that she comes out with of small knitted gifts for people who are knitworthy. And this is Knitworthy 4. And the moment I saw these mittens, I knew I had to have them. I really like wearing mittens, and I can't remember if I ever. I've been knitting a pair of gloves for probably 18 months now. And it's not so much that I don't like them. I just am not a glove wearer. I really like, I like wearing mittens. They feel warm to me. I don't know. I really like mittens. So my previous pair of mittens, oh, here's Holly. Hi, Holly Noise. Ooh, say hello to your fans. Look, just as beautiful as ever. Somehow my cat's turned 9 this year. We guessed sometime in the spring, so I'm thinking that they're now 9. I know. How did you get so old? Oh, yes, that's how time works, human. March is on. So anyways, she and her sister are good. Her sister was sleeping on my bed last I saw. Anyways, oh yes, okay, great. You're gonna get in the way of everything. Back to the mittens. So my previous pair of mittens, which was a Brooklyn tweed pattern, and I knit them probably 5 or 6 years ago. So they had done many years of good service, and I wore holes in the thumbs, and I fixed them several times, and it was just getting to the point where either I was going to have to reknit the thumbs, or, it was time for a new pair of mittens. And so as soon as I saw these, I knew that these were the new pair of mittens. I honestly do not remember what the Brooklyn tweed pattern was. I think I have a Ravelry page for those mittens. I knit them out of Brooklyn Tweed Loft. And like I said, they did many years of very good service. But these are my new mittens that I knit over Christmas. It was one of those patterns that I saw, and I knew I had to cast it on pretty much as soon as I saw it. And sure enough, I did, and I knit them in less than a week over Christmas break while I was up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan with my family. And so if you follow me on Instagram and you saw the pictures, those pictures were taken by my dad at my parents' house. They live right on Lake Superior. It's a really beautiful part of the world. So anyways, I knit these out of tuku wool sock yarn, which I ordered from the Woolly Thistle, and I'm sure many of you are aware of that lovely yarn shop. It was my first order from them, and it was wonderful service. The yarn arrived perfectly. I loved knitting with the yarn. So if you have not heard of the Woolly Thistle, I encourage you to check them out. She imports yarn. I think it started as mostly British yarns, but now she's expanded a little bit. This yarn, tuku wool, is from Finland. She has some Icelandic wool, some other various other countries. So yes, that's really great. I'm really glad that she's importing this yarn for us so that we can knit with it ourselves without having to pay the exorbitant shipping costs from Europe. So anyways, let me show you these beauties. I just love this detail at the top. All the decreases form this beautiful, oh please focus, this beautiful star. Let's see, there we go. Focus, yay! And the hand just has this beautiful, man, I love them so much. Now, I'm going to unfold because the cuff is double. So it's knit all in one piece. It's a very clever pattern. You have to pay for it, so I don't want to give too much away. But there's some nice 1x1 rib to sort of draw the cuff in around your wrist and keep it warm. And then the cuff that's visible on the outside has a beautiful stranded colorwork. Please focus. Beautiful stranded colorwork star pattern. So I'm going to unfold the cuff, and knowing that I knit these over Christmas, so in December, I might have finished them in like the first day or two of January. I have not woven in the ends yet. I wore these all through January, all through February, and I still have not woven in the ends. But I will reveal my shameful secrets. This is really embarrassing. I need to weave in these ends. But here is how it goes. So you sort of switch the direction of knitting. You start here and then you end up there, obviously. So you switch the right side so that the cuffs then fold up. You know, and I thought to myself last night, you should weave in the ends on these mittens before you show them to people. Like, you know, not that I know how many people are going to watch this episode because it's been so long since I last filmed, but, you know, people are going to presumably watch it, and now everybody is going to know your shameful secret. I love how the thumb mirrors the star decrease detailing. These are they're so beautiful. I loved knitting these. Every second of them was a real treat, and they have been so toasty and warm and wonderful. And yeah, I think my only criticism of the pattern is that I wish there were multiple sizes. I have really small hands, and I cast on. The pattern recommends that you knit, I think the ribbing in a US, sorry, I'm looking at my notes, the ribbing in US 1.5, which is 2.5 millimeter needles, and then that you switch to, I think a US 2.5, which might be a 3.25 millimeter, to knit the stockinette. The color work. And I did that, and I got to, on the first mitten, I probably got to, you know, down here, and I just pulled it over my wrist, and I was like, this is too big. The mitten is just going to be too big. And the mittens are still, so I ripped back, and I'm really glad that I frogged and started over. I knit the whole mitten in US 1.5. But it is still like this is my hand, and there's like this much extra, and my thumb ends here. The length is about right, but the mitten is wide. And I know why there are not multiple sizes, because reworking the star, all of these details and all of the color work, it would be just too much. And like I said, I have worn these mittens all winter and the whole second half of winter, and you know, really it's not that big of a hassle. But I would say, just to be aware, if you, like me, have really tiny hands. I guess I should tell you what the colors are, because I wrote them down. I made a note. The sort of cream color is called sake. The sort of gold, it's kind of a brassy gold. I was expecting it to be a bit more golden, yellowy gold. I'm not sure if it's, I guess that's not too bad color-wise. It is kind of a brassy gold, and at first I wasn't sure how I liked it, but it grew on me. That is called Valo, and the really dark navy blue is called Tiny, Tyni. And like I said, I knit them entirely on US 1.5 double pointed needles, which is a 2.5 millimeter needle. And yeah, excellent, wonderful, wonderful project that gave me lots of hours of joy sitting by the wood stove in my parents' house, knitting away with a cat on my lap, snow falling outside. Where they live, obviously in the Upper Peninsula, they get feet upon feet upon feet of snow every year, every winter. And so we got, not just a white Christmas, but several inches of snow on Christmas. It's pretty magical. So that is one finished object. And then I took a long break from knitting because life got busy, as it does. And then a few weeks ago, probably at the beginning of March, I went out to brunch with a friend who gave me a skein of Lion brand Scarfie. I'm not exactly, I honestly don't remember how she acquired it, but she acquired it and didn't know anybody else who knit, and she said, I know that you can use this and turn it into something. So, as I'm sure you all know, and as I'm sure many podcasters are, we like our nice indie dyed yarns. We like our 100% wool yarn. I'm certainly given my druthers, I guess I'd rather knit with a non-superwash yarn, but I'm not anti-superwash yarn by any stretch of the imagination. And I think that yarn tends to have its purposes, and whatever your purposes are, whatever you want to use, whatever yarn makes you happy, all that is good. But I thought to myself, what on earth am I going to do with this one skein of, let's see here. It was a big skein. It's a 150 gram skein with 312 yards. It's a bulky weight, 78% acrylic, 22% wool. And it's kind of, as you can see from this crocheted scarf, it kind of has like a color, kind of does like a faded or ombre sort of effect that it goes through. And I have leftovers. It's really soft. It's really, really soft. And it had been a very long time since I last knit with Lion brand yarn. I was probably, oh goodness, it might be going all the way back to, I learned to knit in elementary school, and it might be going all the way back to elementary school. That was the last, so I learned to knit when I was about 7 or 8. And then at my elementary school, there was a 5th grade teacher who taught all of her students how to knit, and they would do like, I think hats and little scarves for that the 5th grade teacher then donated for like preemies, newborn babies, things like that. And then I took a long break from knitting and got back to it in college. But it might be going all the way back to those early elementary school days. That was the last time I knit with Lion brand yarn. So, anyways, this is actually, it's kind of nice. It's very soft. I'm certainly not going to go out and buy 10 more skeins and knit 10 more things with it. But I decided to knit this tiny, tiny baby. Look at it, it's so tiny. Oh my gosh, you guys, I was knitting this and I thought, surely newborn babies cannot be that tiny, but they are. Like, I know in my head that this is really, like, this is a newborn baby cardigan. So I have a very good friend who is expecting her first baby in May. And my friend's mother is also a very avid knitter, so this baby is going to be like set for life. But I decided that I had to get in on the knitting game too. and I realized that this yarn is machine washable. Super easy care. It's not like, super wash. I tend to worry about it stretching and then people not being, sort of not realizing, you have to lay it flat to dry and kind of reshape it. I thought, easy care is the way to go for a newborn baby. My friend's mom is a knitter, but I think with a newborn, easy care is the way to go. Not that I would know. I have very little interest in babies, except for knitting for them. Like, this is the cutest. My goodness. I knit this little cardigan in 2 evenings, maybe 3 evenings. It's a bulky yarn. It knit up super quick. I guess I should tell you, you probably recognize. I think this is a pretty well-known little baby pattern. It's called the Baby Sophisticate by Lyndon Down. It's free on Ravelry. Well-written little pattern. It's a pretty straightforward sort of top-down raglan cardigan. And then you obviously knit the sleeves, and then you knit the button band, and the collar is done with some easy short row shaping. And it's the whole thing. It was just, I knit it on US 8s, which are 5mm needles. I did not make a note of what particular brand of needles I used either for the mittens or for this, and I'm not going to go grab them and check, because as you all, if you've watched the podcast before, you're well aware that I do this in a single cut with no editing. It's a pretty low tech show. So anyways, getting up with it, I knit them on US 8s, some brand of needle that I've had for several years. So as you can probably gather, I did do some sort of, I guess the technical term would be color management. So I knit the sleeves in the same color that, when I'd finished the raglan increases, I was on this sort of light gray. So I started knitting the sleeves in the light gray, and I knit the collar in sort of at the mid, where the really light gray is fading into the black. And then the little blue buttons are just, they're just from Michael's, big box craft store. But I thought they were super cute. And the reason that I was at Michael's was so that I could get more baby yarn to knit another baby cardigan, because one was just not enough. I can't send a little package off to my friend with just one little cardigan. Baby needs multiple cardigans. And as my mother reminded me when I talked to her, thanks Mom, newborn babies grow very quickly. And so I knit, this is the, I think it's the newborn to 3 month size. This pattern I think has 2 sizes. I think it is newborn to 3 month and then 3 month to 6 month. And I knit this size because I knew that I wanted to sort of manage my colors. And I did not think that I had enough to, technically, I think I had enough yarn to knit the bigger size, but I did not want to, I didn't want the sleeves to be mismatched. I didn't want to, sort of have the collar just knit out of whatever was left. I wanted to really sort of manage it and make, because the sweater is called the Baby Sophisticate. And how can you be sophisticated if your sleeves are mismatched? Dreadful. So anyways, maybe not the most practical thing to have knit a bulky cardigan for a baby born in May, but my friend lives in the UK, so it is chillier there. I feel like there will be at least one opportunity in which a warm cardigan will be the thing to wear. I might knit a hat out of, this is the biggest ball of leftovers, but I have a couple of smaller ones as well. So I might knit a hat or something to go with it. I haven't really decided, not really sure. So that's it for finished objects, and I only have one work in progress, and as you have probably guessed by now, it sure is another cardigan for this little baby, except that I am knitting a larger size, so that little baby can get as much wear out of it as humanly possible. So let's see here. Let me see if I can show this to you. Sweaters always have this awkward stage, especially top-down ones where you have the sleeves and, you know, like things are just, anyways, there's just sort of an awkward stage. So this is cardigan number 2. Sorry, the needle is clanking against my desk. This is the Tristan Cardigan. And I am knitting it has, I think there is a free, the smallest size, the newborn to 3-month size, is free on Ravelry. But if you pay, you get 2 larger sizes as well. And because I did not think that I was clever enough to figure out how to scale up the size of a cardigan, I decided to pay the small fee and the small cost of the pattern. I think it was $5 or something. And I feel like this pattern, you know, my friends are starting to have babies, and I feel like this is a cardigan that I would happily knit for more friends. So I think that, or more friends' babies rather. So I think that it's something that will, you know, perhaps see multiple iterations. It's designed by Mare Almagro, who has, I think she has a blog that's Inner Shelter. I wrote down Inner Shelter, and the pattern PDF says Inner Shelter on it. So I'm not sure if that's like her brand. She only has, I think, a couple of patterns, and this is one of them. So it has, the cardigan opens along the side here, with a little garter band and then a wider garter band on the inside, and it's, I'm going to have to get some snaps. If I'd thought ahead, I think I would have put in buttonholes, but I did not think ahead, so I'm going to get some snaps, and then I will sew buttons, probably these buttons, because I got a whole big tube of them at Michael's, sew buttons over top of the snaps, and I think I'll probably just do snaps along sort of the raglan line, not all the way down. I don't think that's necessary. So I'm nearly done with the body. I'm knitting the largest size, which I think is, she says it's 8 to 12 months. So I'm hoping that, you know, at some point in the fall, this cardigan will not be too big anymore. So I think you do 15 repeats of this little cable. I thought the little cable pattern was just so cute. You know, who doesn't love a good little cable? And it's just a 6-row repeat, so 3 rows of cables. It's very easy. So this is made for very easy sort of TV evening knitting, which is exactly what I was looking for. But it gives the cardigan something a little bit fun, and I like the fact that it's not sort of front buttons, but it buttons on the side. So I think I counted last night. I think I'm at 13 cable repeats, and the pattern recommends 15, and then I just have to knit the sleeves. So I'm really hoping that I can get this done over the weekend. It depends how I feel about sleeves. Sleeves are, as I'm sure anybody who has knit a sweater knows, not always the most fun. So I'm knitting these on the recommended needle size, which is a US 6 4mm. I was going to show you. They're just, I don't even remember. They don't say on them what they are, and I honestly don't remember. So needles, yay. It's probably a 36-inch circular, 32-inch circular. Anyways, the yarn is, shockingly, from Michael's, because that is where I got the buttons. I was there to get yarn. This is Loops and Threads snugglywuggly. It's baby yarn. I think it might be the Michael's brand. Michael's, if you're not in the US or don't know, is a big box craft store along the same lines as Joann Fabrics, although Michael's does not have fabric, but they have all sorts of craft supplies, sort of little home things, you know, that kind of store. So it's a DK weight 100% acrylic. It is, again, an interesting size skein. 446 yards in 5 ounces, which is 141 grams, that seems strange to me. But anyways, it is also machine washable and even tumble dryable. But don't iron it. Shockingly, you should not iron the acrylic yarn. Again, this yarn was actually recommended to me by a friend who has knit many more baby things than I have. I have knit a few baby things, but it has been a while. And I was looking for recommendations of sort of affordable, easy care yarns. And it has been so long since I last used like a craft store acrylic yarn. I am amazed. This is actually very soft. It has been really nice to knit with. It has really nice stitch definition. I wouldn't use this to knit things for myself, but I think for babies, and it comes in, this is kind of a soft gray. There was a darker gray. There were some of the usual sort of pastel suspects. And the parents are not waiting, or are waiting to find out if it's a little boy or a little girl until the day that he or she appears. So obviously that's why I've gone with grays, because it's nice and gender neutral, but I think it will be super cute on either a little boy or a little girl. So yeah, this has been really fun to knit, and goodness, I have so many plans. I could knit like 6 more baby cardigans, but baby is coming in May, so I think I'm going to leave it at these 2 for now, although I'm sure that I will be knitting many more things for this little child. But before I send that package off, while I was in Michael's, I think Loops and Threads must be, I'm not sure, maybe it's not the Michael's brand, but it's another DK weight, but I really liked the sort of bright teal color, and that's pretty good. I'm looking at it on my screen. It looks pretty accurate color-wise. And again, this is, pretty sure it's 100% acrylic. Yes, it is 100% anti-pilling acrylic, and again, machine washable and tumble dryable. So I'm going to knit a hat, I think. Nice little hat. So I actually have not chosen a pattern yet. I've looked and haven't seen anything that sort of has called out to me. So if you happen to know of a good DK weight baby hat pattern that is uses one color and is not, I don't want a little lacy bonnet because I don't know I kind of hope it's a girl, but I don't know. So obviously the parents and I will be thrilled either way. Doesn't matter, but sort of hoping it's a little girl. Anyways, if you have a favorite DK weight baby hat pattern that's not sort of gendered, let me know, because I could use a good recommendation. So this is probably the next thing that will be on my needles. I might even cast it on this weekend, because I would like to get this little package winging its way sooner rather than later. Holly, you jumped down. Yes, I know. So now you're yelling at me to pick you back up. Great. The other thing that I have planned is to knit, and I don't think I've actually talked about this. I'm pretty sure that I got this yarn. Oh, maybe I have talked about it. Trying to think. I filmed my last episode in September after I'd gotten back from my trip to Europe. Might have already shown you this. I ordered a bunch of knit picks, Wool of the Andes, the non-superwash in cobblestone. Oh, cobblestone heather. Please focus on the label and not on my face. You can't see my face. There we go. It's just a dark charcoal gray, but I love the heathered colors of the Knit Picks yarn. I think it gives it a nice depth. Maybe I did already show this to you. Anyways, I have a bunch of skeins, and I'm planning to knit the Lorna Suzanne cardigan, which is a pattern by Ellen Mason. It's kind of a vintagey, like sort of 1940s look cardigan. It has a simple sort of lily, I think it's a lily of the valley lace pattern. Could be wrong about that. Looked at the pattern last night. My notes say vintage, lacy fronts, color. Great. And it has sort of like a little pointed collar. It's really pretty. It's been in my favorites for quite some time. And so I have the yarn to knit it. I just have not actually swatched or cast on because I have just not had the time. And I am still, at least in theory, I am on the second sleeve, I think. Still working away on my deco cardigan, which I'm knitting out of West Yorkshire Spinners yarn, the Air Valley DK, I think, in a red color. And I'm pretty sure I did show that last time. I bought the yarn when I was in the UK, and I cast on in the UK over the summer, and I knit, like, you know, flew through the body, and then the sleeve, I have finished the first sleeve, but not the second sleeve. So at some point that will be finished, and then I still have to knit, I think, the button band and collar. So that's also on my list of things to do. But I am clearly still thinking about baby patterns, because I have, I'm thinking about maybe knitting a little romper. I think that would be really cute. And if you've seen the Little Brothers romper pattern on Ravelry, which is by Petite Knit, that just looks super cute. It's just a really simple little sleeveless romper. So maybe I will get some yarn to knit that. We'll see. The other sort of crafty thing that I'm thinking about doing, I was browsing through Instagram yesterday, I think, and I came across Chrissy Crafts. I'd never heard of her. She has a YouTube channel. She's Chrissy_crafts on Instagram. And she has, I believe she has a podcast. It looks like from her Instagram, she is a knitter and a crocheter. Her feed is really, really beautiful. So if you're not familiar with her, I would, you know, recommend checking her out. But I found her because somebody that I follow, I'm not going to remember who it is now. Anyway, somebody that I follow had posted about the Good Intentions Stitch Along, which you can, if you search for the hashtag Good Intentions SAL, you'll find it. It's this beautiful embroidery hoop that has sort of a word or a couple of words, your intentions for 2018, and then a border that sort of has some really pretty floral elements in it. And Chrissy Crafts is running the stitch along, but also has uploaded video tutorials for sort of all of the elements on her YouTube. So I've sort of picked out some preliminary colors. I put some fabric in my embroidery hoop, but I've not decided on my word yet. I'm thinking learn, but we'll see. And then I thought, well, you could also do it for the little baby. And then I thought, no, I think I want to keep it for myself. So, and among all of my gift knitting, I think this might be my selfish. My cat just jumped down again. She cannot make up her mind. It's like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. This bed is too soft. This bed is too hard. She still has not figured out what is just right. So anyways, I might start that this afternoon. Like I said, I'm on spring break, so I have a few more days of relaxation, and I decided to take a break. I think I needed it. So that's obviously where I've found all of this knitting time suddenly. So that's another thing that I think I'm going to work on. And I think I've told you about all of my plans. It's just been a lot of work lately. There's really sort of nothing else exciting to report. Like I said, I was up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan for Christmas with my family. This year, my younger brother, John, is 4 years younger than me. He's a computer science major at Colorado State University. So he's the sort of sciencey, mathy person, and I'm the humanities and liberal arts side of the family. Anyways, he and I rented a car this year and drove up, which was really nice. It's about an 8-hour drive, a little less than 8 hours maybe. And it's nice. Where my parents live is, I think, about as far as you can get in the U.S. from an interstate highway. So we drove, obviously left Chicago on the interstate, and then about halfway through the drive, you're on sort of state highways, 2-lane highways, not big interstate highways. So it was really nice. He's not necessarily the best navigator. I hope he's not watching. But we had a really good time. It was really nice to just sort of spend some sibling time with my little brother. He drove me crazy when we were growing up, but he's turning out to be a pretty good person. So that's great. I'm sure he says the same thing about me. So don't worry, I know. But I guess let me tell you, I'm reading a novel right now. Again, spring break, finally have time to read. Most of my reading has been work-related, obviously school-related, and then my parents got me a subscription to the New Yorker for Christmas. So that's been sort of my pleasure reading. I can read kind of an article in an evening, and that's, even when I'm busy with work reading, I still find myself wanting to read other things, which I think is not necessarily the way that most people in my graduate program feel. Anyway, so I've been reading the New Yorker because that's something that I can pick up and put down. It's not, I'm not committing if there's an evening that I just can't read or don't want to read or don't have time. It's a little bit easier to sort of dip in and out of than a novel. So I've been reading a novel since it's spring break, but honestly, I don't want to recommend it to you guys. It's not that it's bad. It's not bad. It's called The Women in the Castle, I think, by Jessica Shattuck. I think that's right. Anyway, so I'm going to talk about it anyways, even though I don't have it with me. It's sitting on my nightstand. And it's about three women in the years after World War II. All of their husbands were part of a resistance plot to kill Hitler, and they're all executed. The plot is obviously unsuccessful. And so these women sort of band together in the years following the war, and it sort of follows their lives. And I think it was really well reviewed, and looking on Goodreads, lots of people have read it and really enjoyed it. I'm just finding it kind of flat. The characters don't seem particularly compelling to me. Between the three women, there are several children, and I cannot remember for the life of me whose children or whose child is whose. And I'm going to finish it because it's not bad, but it's just really not as compelling as I wanted it to be. So instead, I'm going to recommend to you something that I read over Christmas, although I actually just finished it. I had 10 pages left to read. Robin, why did you not just finish it? But anyways, it's called an Odyssey, A Father, a Son, and an Epic by Daniel Mendelsohn, who wrote The Lost. And I forget the subtitle of The Lost, but that's a Holocaust memoir, or a memoir about families who were killed in the Holocaust. A Search for 6 of 6 Million is the subtitle. So Daniel Mendelsohn is a classicist, professor of Greek and Latin at Bard College, I think. No, his little blurb doesn't say. Yes, Bard College. And his father decides to enroll. He's teaching an introductory freshman seminar on the Odyssey where they read Homer's Odyssey over the course of a semester and talk about it. And his father, who is a mathematician, I think, yes, decides to enroll in this seminar to sort of understand his son. And so it's about that, and then father and son take a cruise that sort of, says it's tracing the path of Odysseus. So it's about that, but it's also about a relationship of a father and a son. And if that's not enough for you, it's a really wonderful piece of sort of literary criticism of the Odyssey. So I really enjoyed this. I found it incredibly compelling and well written. And I'm not sure if I've mentioned, actually, in college, I double majored in history and classics. So classical studies is always going to be near and dear to my heart, even though I've ended up as a medievalist. And I took a seminar once where I read both the Iliad and the Odyssey, and in translation. My Greek, I took one year of college ancient Greek and decided that was enough, and that I actually did not want to be a classical philologist studying classical languages, because my Greek would have had to be so much better than I think it ever was going to be. At some point it would be fun to go back and study it in sort of a less stressful environment, but at the time it was just not. I realized that it was not for me. So I've only read the Odyssey and the Iliad in translation. But anyways, I took this seminar in college, and the professor said to me, we were talking about the Odyssey, we'd read the Iliad the week before, or the couple of weeks before. She said to me, "Robin, I can tell that you really prefer the Iliad to the Odyssey." And it's true, I really do, given my druthers. And I've now used that phrase twice in this podcast in the space of 45 minutes. It's not a phrase I use all that frequently. Who knows? A mystery. But this gave me kind of a new appreciation for the Odyssey, a different way of looking at it and thinking about it. And it's perfectly timed because, and I should have grabbed it from my shelf, I didn't. Emily Wilson, who is a classicist at the University of Pennsylvania, has just published back in November a new translation of the Odyssey, and it is the first time, believe it or not, that a woman has translated the Odyssey into English. And it's been incredibly well received, incredibly well reviewed. I received a copy of it. My parents gave me a copy of it for Christmas, but I have not read it. That's something I'm saving for the summer when I really have time to sort of sink my teeth into it, and enjoy it. If anybody's curious, and I might have mentioned this before, my favorite translations of both the Iliad and the Odyssey are Richmond Lattimore's. He translated both works in the 1950s, I think. And his sort of his poetical translations are just, I think they're spectacular. So anyways, I'll read the blurb to you, because I usually do. When 81-year-old Jay Mendelsohn decides to enroll in the undergraduate seminar on the Odyssey that his son Daniel teaches at Bard College, the two find themselves on an adventure as profoundly emotional as it is intellectual. For Jay, a retired research scientist who sees the world through a mathematician's unforgiving eyes, this return to the classroom is his one last chance to learn the great literature he'd neglected in his youth, and, even more, a final opportunity to more fully understand his son. But through the sometimes uncomfortable months that follow, as the two men explore Homer's great work together, first in the classroom, where Jay persistently challenges his son's interpretations, and then during a surprise-filled Mediterranean journey retracing Odysseus's legendary voyages, it becomes clear that Daniel has much to learn too, for Jay's responses to both the text and the travels gradually uncover long-buried secrets that allow the son to understand his difficult father at last. As this intricately woven memoir builds to its wrenching climax, Mendelssohn's narrative comes to echo the Odyssey itself with its timeless themes of deception and recognition, marriage and children, the pleasures of travel, and the meaning of home. Rich with literary and emotional insight, an Odyssey is a renowned author-scholar's most revelatory entwining yet of personal narrative and literary exploration. So again, I found this really compelling and really moving, and just, sort of everything that I like out of literary nonfiction or the memoir. I actually read another memoir over Christmas that I did not enjoy nearly as much. It was, what was it called? Ooh, it's not going to come to me. It was one of the NPR every year does, I think they call it the book Concierge, where various NPR, National Public Radio, for those of you who are not in the U.S., various National Public Radio people from across a variety of stations and podcasts and positions recommend the best books that they've read all year. And this was one of those. It has a penguin on the cover, postcards from something. This is profoundly unhelpful to anybody who... Anyways, it was written by somebody who I think is only a few years older than I am, and I just really don't think that people in their 20s have enough material to write a memoir. I just don't think that, don't think we've lived enough life and, sort of had the time to reflect on it that a memoir really requires. And I think this is everything that book was not for me. I did read another novel. I did a lot of pleasure reading over Christmas break. It was really wonderful. I did read a novel. Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. I'm not going to remember the name of the author, but Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine is the name of the book. That was recommended also on the NPR book Concierge. It's hundreds of books. They do it every year. You can search by a variety of different tags. So if you're looking for something new to read, I would actually really recommend that to you. Anyways, this novel was brilliant. I think I read it in less than 24 hours because the characters were so alive, and it was kind of a story that I'd never, I don't know, it just felt completely unlike anything that I'd ever read before. And I think it's the author's first novel as well. So hopefully there's more to look forward to from her. It's kind of a story of an unlikely heroine sort of figuring out where she fits in the world after some really unpleasant and traumatic experiences in her childhood. Sort of how she comes to cope with those and kind of finds friendship with an unlikely person. So it's really that I would also really recommend. But anyways, An Odyssey by Daniel Mendelsohn is the book that I chose to talk about to you all today. And I think with that, I'm going to finish up this episode. I was worried that it was going to be a really short one because I feel like I didn't actually have all that much knitting to talk about. And then I thought, well, maybe I could talk about a couple of books. And then I thought, no, you should just stick with one. But somehow here we are after 51 minutes. So, I don't know. Guess I haven't lost the gift of going on and on and on and on about whatever it is that I'm knitting or reading. So that's good to know. So anyways, I think I'm going to wrap this up. To those of you who celebrate, Happy Easter. That is also this Sunday, or that is this Sunday. My birthday is also this Sunday. I think this is the first time that my birthday has ever been on Easter, but obviously my birthday does fall within that range of dates that Easter can be every year. So anyways, to those of you who celebrate, happy Easter. To everybody else, a happy weekend. I hope that wherever you are, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, spring is on its way. I know the East Coast got absolutely slammed with snow in March. And Chicago, we did get more snow this winter than we have the past couple. We had at least we'd had one really good snowstorm that we got probably 7 or 8 inches, which was really nice. But it seemed like it was warming up, and now it's chilly again. I think it's in the high 30s today. So after a couple of days of wearing my spring jacket, I was back to my winter coat today. So hopefully spring is on its way, and I hope that we get a nice spring that doesn't sort of rush past us, straight to the summer heat and humidity. I'd like a good long spring this year. So anyways, who knows when I'll film again. It's sort of whenever the inspiration strikes and I have enough to talk about and enough time to devote. But, podcast isn't gone. It's just less frequent than it used to be. So I still really enjoy sitting down and chatting with you guys. This has been a really fun hour. And I will probably just upload this today. I don't see any reason to wait. That way, if you have a weekend, if you get Monday off, or even obviously today is Good Friday, if you get Easter Monday off, if you feel like sitting down with your knitting and a cup of tea and watching this, although now I'm telling you this at the end of the episode, you've done whatever you wanted to do while you watched or listened. So anyways, I hope that you all have a lovely weekend, a happy spring, or if you are in the Southern Hemisphere, happy fall, and I'll see you all next time. All right, bye.